What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Football Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Queen. And of course, before we get started with today's fire episode, I would like for all my viewers out there on YouTube to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you can stay up to date when new videos drop on the channel. Also, if you're listening to me on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even Spotify, go follow the podcast. It'll be greatly appreciated. And let's jump right into things. Week 8 is about to begin, and there's a few questions for a lot of teams going into week 8. Week 8 will be the halfway point of the season. So you could really determine how your team's going to look throughout the next half of the season. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a football team that reminds me of somebody I've seen in the past. So anybody remember like the 2014, the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger and the Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and this team that had what they call the Killer Bees? That same team in that time span only went to, I believe it was one AFC Championship game, and that was in 2016. They never got back. This year, and you thought because all the talent they had an all-pro running back, Pro Bowl quarterback, all-pro receiver, and a receiver that, if he didn't lose his mind, could possibly be eligible for the Hall of Fame because that's how great Antonio Brown was. If you look about what this team was, you would thought, oh, this team's going to go to the Super Bowl. They have all the pieces to get there. They never did. They kept getting knocked out by the Patriots. They got knocked out by the Jaguars one year. They got knocked out by the Cleveland Browns. It was just another team after another team knocking them out of the playoffs. And you were just wondering why this team never reached its peak that we thought it could reach. It kind of sounds like the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have been a playoff team since Josh Allen's second season in 2019. And that time span, they've been to one AFC Championship game. And that was in, I believe it was 2020 during COVID year. They haven't reached the AFC Championship game since then. They've been knocked out. They got knocked out of the division round in 2021. They got knocked out of the division round in 2022, won by a team that went to a Super Bowl, and the Chiefs, and another team that already been to a Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bills are a good team, but the Bills feel like a team that's just a playoff team. I seen that with Seattle as well. You remember the Seahawks after they went to the Super Bowl in 2014 and they choked. That Seattle team will keep going to the playoffs, but that's all they'll do. They want to go back to a championship game. They would just be a divisional round, a wild card round, and they would get kicked out the playoffs. It's seeming like this Buffalo Bills team Super Bowl window is closing fast. And if I'm Sean McDermott and if I'm Josh Allen, and you already have the pieces around y'all to be a Super Bowl caliber team, you must be in win mode now. You are 4-3 going to the Thursday night football game. Let's see if you could actually beat the Buccaneers. Because if you could beat the Buccaneers, you move to 5-3. You're feeling a little bit better by yourself. But the schedule just gets a little more difficult going throughout the season. I think the Buffalo Bills need this victory in Week 8. Let's talk about another team that it feels like they're sleeping a little bit, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. They lost 2 games. Let's just talk about what it is. Everybody had this team as probably the best team of football because they were just blowing opponents out. No one could touch them. And then the Cleveland Browns came. And don't give me the excuses about they were missing Christian McCaffrey. They was missing Deebo Samuel. The Cleveland Browns didn't have their quarterback. Cleveland Browns didn't have Nick Chubb. But every team, by the time you get to Halloween, is going to be missing players. You can't keep making those excuses for team missing players because every team's battling injuries throughout the season. This is why we always say the healthiest team usually is the most fortunate team to go to the Super Bowl. That's just how it works. So it's what you can do despite you having your star players out. Can you win then? You lost against Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings that look like they're going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. And you lost to the Cleveland Browns third string quarterback and PJ Walker, who just got elevated to the second string quarterback because Dorian Thompson couldn't get the job done as a starter. He's just a rookie. He wasn't really ready for the moment. I'm looking at the San Francisco 49ers team, and they got to play the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are coming. They're coming now. Like, I had the Bengals in my playoff picture. I didn't think the Bengals would win the AFC North, but the Bengals are coming. And if you're the 49ers, if you look at it yourself, and now that Brock Purdy's in concussion protocol, and that means Sam Darnold is going to get the start against the Bengals. If you drop 3, guess who's coming? The Seattle Seahawks. It takes one win by the Seattle Seahawks against you head to head for them to take the league in your division. And now we're talking about y'all being a wild card team. I think the 49ers need this win against the Cincinnati Bengals because you wanted to have that 1 or 2 seed so you could have a better position of making it to the Super Bowl or making it to the championship game. You really want home playoffs throughout the whole playoffs. And because you dropped 2 straight, the Eagles now have the number 1 seed like they did last year. And you know what happened last time? You had to go to Philly in the NFC Championship game, and your quarterback got injured. It just sucks to happen, but I didn't think you were going to beat Philly anyways. I thought Philly was a superior team. Now we're going to see what this San Francisco 49ers team is made of. Can Sam Darnold get the job done against Cincinnati Bengals? We'll have to see in Week 8. Let's show some love to teams that, even though they are popular franchises, I feel like they're not really talked about in the media like that because the expectations are already supposed to be there about this team being good. The first team is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the longest winning streak in 5 straight games since their Week 1 loss to the Detroit Lions. They have been winning football games, and it's not even Pat Mahomes being Pat Mahomes. It's their defense being a top 5 defense. The Kansas City Chiefs finally have a defense that can win a Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes doesn't have to be Pat Mahomes. And when I'm looking at this Chiefs team, Pat Mahomes threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And for the first time this season against the Los Angeles Chargers. But they have been in every game because the defense has made stops, has made plays, has gotten takeaways. This defense is the best defense that Pat Mahomes has played with so far. So it's easy to say they're the favorites in the AFC to win it all. I think Pat Mahomes, this is probably the best version the Chiefs will ever see. And you can say, well, 2018 they had a top 5 offense. 2020 they had a top 5 offense. I was like, that's all fine. Pat Mahomes won the MVP in 2018 and 2022, but I still think this is the best team he has played with. Their offense is not spectacular. They don't have the star receivers. None of the young receivers are taking the next step. They're still relying on Travis Kelce. Isaiah Pacheco is a decent running back, but because when you have the all-time great quarterback in Pat Mahomes and you have a defense that is playing lights out as a top 5 defense, you can win with that formula. You don't even need all the skill positions around Pat Mahomes because Pat Mahomes is so great. He elevates other players around him. I mean, Marcus Valdez-Scantling had a big day in Week 7. So did the rookie. The rookie Rice had a pretty big day too. But it all falls down to that defense that shut out the Chargers in the second half. Chargers scored 17 points in the first half. In the last 2 quarters, they scored a whopping 0. I think the Chiefs are a really good team, and I think they deserve a little bit more love going into Week 8 and so far this season. The second team is the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are one of the 5 teams that have a top 5 offense and top 5 defense. Lamar Jackson is playing at an MVP level. Even though he's not going to have all the numbers he had in his MVP season, where he led the league in passing touchdowns with 36. Also, he had 1,000 rushing yards as a quarterback. He's doing it. I don't even know how to explain it. They finally have receivers. That's what it is. They have receivers to let Lamar Jackson cook. Lamar Jackson has not had receivers his whole career. Let's just call it what it is. And Lamar Jackson still won MVP. This is how you know if a quarterback is great. Not good, not mediocre, it's great. A quarterback could be great when he doesn't have Pro Bowl talent around him, and he still gets the job done in the wins column. Lamar Jackson has Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, even Nelson Aguilar, Mr. Butterfingers himself. Even Nelson Aguilar is looking like a Pro Bowl caliber receiver. Okay, I lied. He's not looking like a Pro Bowl caliber receiver, but he's looking competent and he's making plays on Sunday. Odell Beckham Jr. has come back from injuries this season and is making plays. Mark Andrews is playing like a top tier tight end, as we know he can be. This is why he's a top 3 paid tight end. I like what I've seen from the Baltimore Ravens, and it's the defense. The defense is wonderful, being led by Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, and they lead the league in sacks because they had a bunch of veterans on that defensive line with Jadeveon Clowney and company. I really do love what the Baltimore Ravens are doing. They're 5-2, and if I had to pick a team now that'll compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, have an opportunity to beat them, it would be the Baltimore Ravens. And the last team, the team that, is just flying under the radar, is the Atlanta Falcons. I really like what I've seen from the Atlanta Falcons, who are in first place in the NFC South. And you can say, Well, the Falcons are in a weak division. No one really cared about that division because all the teams in the division are trash. I mean, you got the Carolina Panthers who have the worst record in football, only 6. But you're the same. Those are the same people who had the Saints winning the division because you believe in Derek Carr. So which one is it? Is it the division is weak and the Saints should run with it, or is it's not as the Saints are just not as good as we thought they could be? And the Saints still have a top 10 defense. I think the Atlanta Falcons, if you could get rid of all the turnovers that Desmond Ritter makes, because he's still a young quarterback, people don't understand. He hasn't even played 17 games in his career yet, so he's still a young quarterback. But if you could get rid of all of those turnovers, the Falcons have a top 10 defense, top 5 pass defense. This team is only giving up roughly like 13 points a game. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal defense. You have AJ Terrell, you have Jesse Bates, you have Calais Campbell, Grady Jarrett. All these people Bud Dupree. All these people are making a big impact because they got a veteran presence. And then on the offensive side of football, Kyle Pitts had come into his own. Drake London, even Cordell Patterson's came back for injury. And you have the rookie phenom, Bijan Robinson. I really do like what I've seen with Atlanta Falcons. And they played the Tennessee Titans and a rookie quarterback, Will Levis. I like the Atlanta Falcons to get a victory in Week 8 to move on to 5-3. Thank you for watching and listening to the Football Corner podcast. If you like all the crazy takes I make on this podcast, you can follow me on my social media pages for even more crazy takes at the Football Corner podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching. See you next time.